Hey guys, what is going on? Who is in here so far? We got YFI, Carrie Britton, Coro. What's going on, buddy? Um, Craig's Catfish Cave. What's going on? Good to see y'all. Welcome, welcome. So, aloha. Hello. So today I wanted to do just say hey. Lately, I've really just been run down, tired, losing energy and steam, like kind of towards the end of streams. So if y'all think that I'm fading, let me know. I'm going to turn the light on here too, so that we can see me a little bit better. Because, that's what it's all about, right? It's all about um, it's all about the fish. I need to get a new background. So originally I had thought that this would be a spot where I could use the digital the feature of digital green screen in the background, but that didn't end up working. It doesn't realize you may have hands. I mean, and it ends up being a problem for the depth perception of if you have anything in the foreground. So yeah. Ari Cat, what's up? Mick, hello. Ben, hello. Jesse, Larissa, Going G. Um, Good to see y'all. Peter, hello. Uh yeah, good to see everybody today. Cameron Carter, hey. And Neo Veritas. Vinoski, what's going on, man? Haven't seen you in a little while, I feel like. Mimic Nature, hi you. So tomorrow night, 3G, what's up? Tomorrow night I will be on Father Fish's show, 5 p.m. West Coast time, 8 p.m. East Coast time. And you know when we did it, we had him on this channel a week ago or so, and we had a lot of technological errors. So we're going to this time hopefully bypass all that, go through StreamYard, which he knows how to run and I know how to log into and everything. So I'll be on his channel tomorrow night talking for an hour or two about nature tanks and deep substrate and things like that. Now, I think I'm going to make a short edit, and by that I mean hopefully about 20 minutes or so of the talk that he and I had previously on the channel, which included a lot of questions that I feel like a lot of people who claim to be adherents to Father Fish's methods and or deep substrate sand beds don't actually know what his opinion is or what his beliefs are slash science says about certain things, because shorts and like only watching half of a video that's designed to get your attention by saying something provocative or saying a declarative statement like you'll never have to do a water change again. Well, I've got him during the interview saying, actually, I don't think you can have a fish tank without doing any water changes. You're going to have to do some, but you don't need to do them until you need to do them, until something is up with your parameters. So I find that I hope, and I already talked to him and he said it's fine, but I hope that doesn't come off as a betrayal to him, because it's his own words. You know what I mean? It's not supposed to be a gotcha. It's supposed to be okay, great. The shorts got your attention and the spirit of what he said is true. But here's the ifs, ands, or buts about that detail. So I hope that edit will do something to that effect, and that folks will get the understanding that I think nature tanks are great. I also think high-tech aquascapes are great. There's a lot of ways to keep fish. There's a lot of ways to keep plants and so forth. Pretty much any planted tank I'm okay with. I don't really like unplanted tanks unless you're maybe doing some big scale breeding thing. But pretty much other than that, yeah. So it'd be nice to know what he thinks. Yeah, I mean, in the interview, we've got it very clearly where he'll say, yeah, you're gonna have to do some water changes, or the fact that no, in a deep substrate tank, sand it has no nutritional value whatsoever for your plants. Now, in the short, it says that a deep sand bed is the best thing for your plants nutritionally. But what the short has to leave out is that means after your fish have gone to the bathroom and plants have decayed and fallen apart and leaves have fallen apart and little microbes and microscopic organisms have helped decompose everything, then you've got all this nutrients in the form of mulm in between the sand granules, and the sand grows bacteria over its surfaces. Then it is a totally great way to grow plants. But you got to have that patience. And some people are messaging me literally one or two a day, if not like on the weekends, a dozen people saying, I put 6 inches of sand in my tank, or I put 2 inches of sand in my tank, and my plants won't grow. What's going on? And I'm like, well, why did you do that? And they're like, well, he said to put sand in. It has everything your plants need. And I'm like, yeah, if you wait a year having epiphytic plants and rhizome plants and fish that you're feeding, which then they'll say, well, he said not to feed my fish. And he said, no, he said to not overfeed them, um, so yeah, it's kind of interesting how he knows that it's a bit bombastic or that it's a bit flashy, some of the things he says. Like someone said in the chat, he is a preacher. Um, and he's trying to get attention to the topic, and I get that. I sometimes feel like I'm mopping up people's questions afterwards, though. I don't know. I mean, I don't know why it ends up coming straight from his channel to mine rather than asking more questions on his. So I'm just kind of interested uh, to establish his opinions and things in a video that I can send to folks who are questioning what I'm saying. That, and then sometimes people will be like, well, are you uh you know do you agree with what he said about X, Y, or Z? And the answer is, in our personal lives, in our political, religious, everything lives, we're pretty opposite. That doesn't mean we can't be friends and we can't get along and have actually pretty long talks about that stuff in the past. But we're pretty far ends of the spectrum. Go figure. A guy in his 30s in Washington State is going to have different opinions than a guy in his 80s that grew up on the East Coast and in Kentucky, Tennessee, and Florida. Relic Turtle, what's going on? Good to see you. Sand could work for things like Val and Anubius. Well, yeah, Anubius, sand doesn't do anything, either way, good or bad. Inga says, I think the issue with KG and Fatherfish took issue was more the implication of him being irresponsible. But saving grace is that he seems fairly open to questions. Yeah, no, and I understand that too. Like a lot of store owners and stuff have commented on my videos or his videos a lot about how much chaos it has sown some of his videos. But I think in a way, those who really want to give it a go and do the research, I mean, if you can't make it through a 15-minute video or an hour-long live stream or whatever from the person that you're taking advice from to set up your tank, you're probably going to screw up your tank in some other way. Like you're probably not paying attention to detail. You're probably not that into the hobby or fish or, the process. And I think a lot of that does still happen. But it sometimes surprises me when you just meet someone who skips over anything that's not convenient for what they want to hear, and or they just pick and choose, like, okay, I don't have to do water changes, but I don't really like plants. I'm raising cichlids, so I'm going to do a father fish deep substrate but with no plants, and they think that that's a variable you can leave out. And that right there is like, you're not doing a father fish tank if that's the case. And then people saying it's a father fish method, this or that. Father fish himself will say he's using the Wallstead method with saltwater methodology that was developed in the 1990s of the deeper sand beds, and that he's been working on it and tweaking it with a group of folks online, myself included. I mean, we've been playing with um, different additives to start your tank with. So um, basically, I've been looking at what metabolites in the soil and in plant root networks, as well as biological colonies of bacteria and archaea. So what is it that they eat? And then what is it that they expel? And trying to predict in the future what each, if you make a layer of, for instance, aerobic that's aerated, and it's going to eat the nitrates out of your water, and it's going to turn ammonia into nitrates, what does that mean for the top ecosystem in your water versus down below in your substrate? Once you get deep enough, if you've got anoxic or anaerobic, it's hard to know which it really is, but a low oxygen to no oxygen environment, um, then what do you need long term? Like, what are you going to run out of first? So, the bacteria, for instance, need iron and they need sulfur in order to create, in order to metabolize, the nitrates and turn them back into ammonia. Then they belch out or poop out or whatever you want to call it. It's bacteria. Uh, they let it out through their membrane, a gas in the form of nitrous oxide. So oxygen and nitrogen, um, and sulfur and methane and CO2 and CO. So those are your main gases from decomposition that tend to happen. And because of that, then you try to figure out, okay, well, so those things are all going to be present in the soil. Plant roots can get to those. What are they lacking? Or what is needed for the plant to uptake sulfur and, for instance, phosphates that regulates their metabolism and their speed of growth. So you need a little bit of phosphate, or phosphorus rather, if you want to look at it elementally, for the iron in the tank to have any use whatsoever. And you need to have the bacteria break down a lot of these things into a form that's usable, just like the nitrogen cycle where there's nitrogen in the air. We can't turn that nitrogen into usable building blocks for our body. We have to have bacteria do that. And then plants absorb that in the soil. And then we eat plants, or we eat meat that ate plants. All right, sorry guys, I was looking away from the chat, but I'm trying to see if you guys have any questions for me. Also, do the @fishtory. Coro says, let's see here. How long roughly would it take a deep sand bed to establish, like you're describing? How much does digging and replanting mess that up? So I've heard a lot of different things from a PhD in chemical engineering and biological engineering, or biochemical engineering is actually, that's what it was. His 2 degrees. It works for CChem. He's in their R&D, head of their R&D department. I met him at the Chicago ADA, and I talked to him at the AGA probably 6 hours, and like probably 3 hours one night, or 4 hours one night, and 2 or 3 another night. And I literally had a notebook where I was writing things down and drawing little charts, because his wisdom, his experience and knowledge really taught me a lot. Okay, I guess that light's just gonna go out. So there's that. My light. So yeah, but I would say that, what he told me was that the whole lasagna method of Substrate, that it's fine to set it up that way, because then you know that things are stratified, and you've got a cap, and you've kind of got things can move by density easy. But as far as plants go, they don't care. They're going to push through anything all the way up into like concrete, essentially. Clay is another one that can stop plants. But unless it's a very dense clay, very fine granule clay, or literal rock or concrete slabs, plant roots are going to find a way through it to get their nutrients if they get the other things they need. And it doesn't matter how it's organized. So if they get their nitrogen in one band versus if it's kind of scattered in a field, they have cells to dedicate to each task, or they have vascular systems that can move those nutrients to wherever they need to be. So technically speaking, that's why aqua soil is sold just to put in your tank. They don't say to cap aqua soil on most brands of aqua soil. It's designed to be anoxic, and then aerobic on the outside, but anoxic and dense clay in the center with nutrients that over time will break down. So it's kind of like each one's like a mini root tab, a mini sponge filter, and a mini piece of soil or clod of dirt, which is kind of interesting. Now, the plan is, though, that's different, is when you don't cap something, you then have to cycle it until it's leached out all of its ammonia, its nitrates, its nitrites, and gases out into the tank, and do water changes frequently. And a lot of people don't want to do that. Let's see here. Silver Creek, 18 months as a member. Thank you so much, my friend. That really, really does warm the heart. Warms the cockles of my heart in the subcockle region. I appreciate it. The 186 element, definitely no notification tonight. Yeah, well, cheers to YouTube. Essentially, the YouTube seems to kind of shadow ban a lot of my stuff, and I don't know why that is, but I see how far like the amount of people that get notified when I put up a video versus most of my friends that are YouTubers. It's very odd, very, very odd. But my content seems to get shown to maybe 3,000 or 4,000 of my subscribers. So like 10% of my subscribers or less sometimes. And that's it. Even if the click-through rate is high. So it's very odd. I think it might be because of my strike for showing me out identifying fungi. But I don't know. We don't really know how the all-powerful algorithm works. Ray's Fish Room, thank you so much for becoming a member. I really do appreciate that. It really does support the channel, and it really helps me like do deeper dives and research, and know that like you guys have got my back. If I have to miss a live stream, or if I take a week to do a video because I get sidetracked and like this research doesn't get used right away, but I'm going to use it later. All that sometimes changes what my output will be. Now, sometimes my output can be 3 or 4 videos in a week if I've got all this backlog of research on several subjects and it kind of all clicks. Like I finally see something that I'm like, oh, that'll finish off that episode perfectly. And so sometimes they get finished in batches because they're kind of half done as I'm working my way through. So I really do appreciate, though, the consistency that membership has. And if you go to my community tab now, you can scroll back through all the old posts, and all the episodes of Fishtory will be on there, which are audio episodes. They're also in a playlist for members. And it says like podcast version. You can listen to 200 plus episodes, plus all the video episodes that are audio based. So they may have me in a video talking in front of a tank or like this one-on-one, but they are me speaking directly to the audience. Eurogupper, thank you so much, man. I really do appreciate the super chat, buddy. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you. Couldn't do it without you guys. You know, if you see my video most recently on the Sundadanios, Axelrod Sundadanios, that was a good example of that video took me 3 times longer to edit. It took me 14 or 15 hours to edit in total, compared to the research time and the, because it was really just a refresher, because I've loved those fish for a long time. But yeah, that took almost probably double the research and the writing of the like rough outline and then filming it. So sometimes things can take a while, but like with that one, I tried to include as much dense information as possible, as many video clips. I had to track down like Chris Lukop, get permission from him to use those beautiful shots of the fish. Then I talked to a logging company in Southeast Asia that actually let me use their clip showing them deforesting the rainforest. And I was like, yeah, I'm a pro lumber lobbyist in Canada. Can I use some of your footage? And they're like, sure. So it's kind of, I don't know. I need to, if the channel grows a little bit more, like one of the next big things I want to get, other than a new microphone, because we've already tried a few different microphones, and we got this little one right here. But I want to do the subscription, which I believe is $100 a month, but it's a subscription to a place where you can find B-roll and use B-roll without having to pay for the license, other than the flat rate. Otherwise, it's like, you know, it can get really expensive just to use the B-roll that's out there. But then I won't have to worry about the copyright and stuff like that. Let's see here. Yeah, YouTube doesn't want me hanging out with fun guy. It doesn't want me to be a fun guy. Maybe one day the notifications will let me know before a live stream starts. Fish shipping. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. But I'm glad you're here. Love you some Paul Stamets. Yeah, me too. He's a very fascinating dude. It never tells me when live videos are going to be on. Mama Duck. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. So, guys, I have something I want to show you that I think is beautiful. And I hope you think it's beautiful. So, look at this fish. It's fairly new. Let me get my ugly mug off the screen. So, look at that fish. Ooh-wee. This is a rare one. Very small. 1.25 inches maybe. But look at that. It's got blue on the tips of its fin. Then it goes into a lime green band and then a yellow band and then back to clear and then maybe kind of bluish silver on the tip again. And then here it's got these gill char marks, as they call them. And then it's got the deep fuchsia or purple with the pink. And these are called, very fittingly, pink lemonade tetras. And this is the Hyphosobricon Itapa reicensis. Really hard to say. Itaparicensis? Itaparicensis. But Aqua Addiction has some really interesting fish that they've got up. That's weird. I don't know. Oh, okay. Here we go. They also have a YouTube channel, apparently. But I mean, they get really interesting. The photos they have access to kind of have me perplexed, quite frankly, where they get such good photos. Yeah, let's see here. Looking through. Yeah, I mean, they just have some absolutely gorgeous tetras, though. Like the African moon tetra. Look at this African tetra. Ooh wee! Put it in the air. Um, so, Cameron Carter says, what do you recommend to breed in an outdoor pond in really cold weather? Unless it's a native North American species or European species, you're not going to get it to breed probably in cold weather. I mean, you need to make sure it's a fish that's even going to survive in the cold weather. There are some fish that do cold water spawn, salmon and things like that. But there's not really many that have full on winter fry. Most are in the spring, some in the fall, and then there's quite a few in the late spring, early summer, or when the rainy season starts. If we're talking tropical, but yeah, these tetras are one that I really find beautiful. But there's a bunch of hyphosobricons out there, or hyphosobricons, uh, that are really beautiful, including some brand new ones. Um, there's this is like another interesting one. Let me pull it up for you guys. Um, there's a lesser bleeding heart tetra that's just like a little less ornate version of the main bleeding heart tetra that we've all seen, love, and know. Um, but yeah, on here, I mean, there's some interesting. Like, did you guys know there was even a tetra known as the arowana tetra? These Adonis tetras also very pretty with the dark purple to blue or brown, depending on the specimen. Um, these dots, which almost look 3D, they almost look like they're like moles on that beautiful fish. And then it's got the swim bladder that is metallic and reflective. This one, wow, black chin tetra. I think I'd just call it the Adolf tetra. Look at this thing. Holy smokes. Really? Ouch. I'm sure that was hiding in Argentina or Venezuela, right, guys? Let's see. Where are they from? It'd be hilarious if it was from Venezuela or Argentina. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, no. Paraguay. Oh, no. And Argentina. Yes. Bolivia, Brazil, Paraguay, Peru, and Argentina. That's everywhere. Man, it's all over the Amazon. Wild. Um, so then, there's some really interesting tetras though out there that we don't normally see. Uh, These ones are another one that I really love. The black darters. They put up a display like a pseudomagil, and they stay very small. They're a really fun fish. I like them. There's so many beautiful tetras out in the world. Let me check the chat. Sorry, guys. Yeah, the paperclip tetra. Yeah, Operation Paperclip Tetra. That's right. Jeff Kane, what's going on? Potor, what's up? Yeah, Patty, what's going on? Eric Wyrock, what's going on? Good to see y'all. Hope everybody doing well. Wow, I mean, man, Durf Son, how long y'all been live? Didn't show. Yeah, no one ever knows I'm live, apparently. Sorry, guys. Yeah, one of the new tetras. The other one that's incredible. Yeah, Mick's totally right here. Black darters are cave spawners, and the males guard the eggs. Yeah, and they spin around like in a very elaborate and beautiful mating ritual to show off to the other males, like, yo, I'm hot stuff. Stay back. Itada, hello. What's the shortest time period for your cherry shrimp to hatch from buried female? Maybe 4 weeks. I don't know, anywhere from maybe as early as like 24 days or so, but usually it's a good full month. And then depending on water temperature and how many times she's had babies, another usually 45 days total is the max, and it's somewhere in between 30 and 45 depending on conditions. Now, guys, I want to know if you guys think I should do an episode on this new study they've found, which is they found that electric eels, this is kind of mind-blowing to me. Electric eels, they actually have enough energy in them that when they put out a shock, if it's a fish that's under about an inch or so, and it's a baby fry, like a small fish, they can shock it so hard that it rearranges the ATGC part of the DNA, the very like language of DNA. It can rip it apart. Other DNA can slide lock in, and then it happens so quick that it's like taking a game of Scrabble and throwing it in the air and then catching it again on the board, and like pretend 2/3 of it stayed in place, but the other parts are scrambled. And then somebody next to you, like the table over, was playing Scrabble and they threw their pieces towards your board. It's pretty crazy. So this guy realized that in a laboratory, they were trying to figure out how life began on Earth. And a lot of people thought or think that either geothermal vents or a lightning strike hit some puddle of amino acids and basic proteins that were just by dumb circumstance, random luck, whatever you want to call it, that there was like basically a protein film or a bacteria film or lipid layer, and that in water or some sort of medium that got heated slowly and churned, or it got violently hit by a comet or something. They don't, they're trying all sorts of different things, but this electrostrophication, as they call it, is when synthetically humans and in labs, they have taken electricity and been able to disrupt genetics and able to essentially destroy parts of DNA and or even fuse parts of two different chunks of DNA. And I find it really fascinating that's something that can happen. So in any case, the lab in Japan that was doing this research, they realized that, hey, the electric eel can actually do this. It can take DNA and kind of scramble it. Well, then another grad student read the reports and the preliminary stuff. It wasn't published yet. And he said, well, what if they evolved to do that? And nobody was thinking about that. Everybody in the room, so to speak, everybody in the science department there was thinking that these electric eels shock things to hunt for defense, for whatever reason, but that they were all the point was to shock things, and that they evolved the ability to shock things by contracting and then releasing, constricting and releasing muscles that carry charges. But now they're wondering is it a way that maybe if a pond's overcrowded, they can literally scramble the DNA of baby fish and prevent them from reproducing later on? It's interesting to think about. But the other student in the lab department, I'm going to stand, guys, my back's hurt. The other student in a different lab saw that they were doing this experiment, and he said, you know what, let's put it in the electric eels, let's put them in an aquarium, and instead of not having anything in the aquarium, so they were doing a blackwater biotope, because that's what, electric eels like to live in, a muddy blackwater biotope. But other than, I think, some dried leaves like catappa leaves or something that they'd thrown in there and saturated and probably were, whatever, being broken down by bacteria, archaea, maybe some algae. They decided instead, let's put these larval fish, and I believe they got zebra danio, Medaka rice fish, and there was another one too, and I think it was maybe a pistos. But what they did is they took the larval zebra danios that were like 3 or 4 days old after hatching, and they allowed the electric eel to hunt after some food species that they put in the tank, and it shocked at the right frequency that it then zapped all these baby fish that were hiding in the substrate. Well, in the tank where there was actual plants and little fish swimming around, rather than just kind of the control tank, the algae and some of the fish genetics and some of the bacteria DNA somehow got transposed into the DNA of the fish. And that is absolutely bonkers. So essentially, the electric eel shocks the heck out of these little larval fish, and the larval fish's DNA took up pieces of any DNA segments floating in the water, which is how eDNA works, is by identifying those and then stitching them together out of tons of pieces. So the question is, what in the heck? Like, why is this a thing? What sort of crazy mutation could happen because of it? There's so many questions. And who knows if it evolved as an actual method to screw with the genetics of, maybe fish that are competition in their environment, or maybe it makes them easier to hunt later on when they grow up. We don't know. But pretty interesting. Viewers right now are throwing batteries in their tank. Yeah, I wouldn't do that, but yeah, it's kind of a crazy thought. Aquatica 87, what's up? So Does anybody have any questions or thoughts tonight? And if you're just joining us tomorrow night, I will be on with, yeah, it's like CRISPR but all natural. So this is the first example they have of this occurring in nature. I mean, they thought this could only occur in laboratories before this. In fact, scientists had argued like, well, there's no way in the wild for electricity to be at that amplitude and that specific range. Like lightning's not going to do that, for instance, they said. Well, now they're also looking back on things, this same school, different lab though, different professor working hand in hand tangentially. They are now looking at trying to see if perhaps, what if lightning hit a tree next to a pond and it ricocheted? Like what sort of impact do these things have on the amplitude and the frequency and all the different elements of an electric field or electric force like that? And if it turns out that it's possible other than just in these fish, then that's very likely the newest candidate for how life was created on Earth from, basically the junk that forms on the top of your fish tank if you overfeed it. Can we use electric eels to charge our phones? Yes. If you had a capacitor and a battery, that would probably help a lot. But yeah, their discharges, I should say, have been used for actually powering electric things. Cameron Carter says, at fishery, could the eels possibly be scrambling the DNA of its surroundings as a way to throw off other predators in the water to create less competition for them for food? I mean, that's a really good idea that it's possible. They don't know why. But yeah, that's a pretty interesting thought. Do you guys, what was that old show called? Rocco's Modern Life. That's what it was called. And there was the character of like, and I think it started in one episode and then it just like became a thing. But there was the primordial goo or ooze. Somebody just reminded me of that in the comments. But I can't remember all the details, but there was some sort of like devil creature or like alien, or I don't know what he was, comic relief, that was in charge of like his pot of the stuff that made up the early life on their primordial goo. All right, let's see here. Especially when we talk about mitochondrial DNA and regular DNA are definitely different. Yeah. This scrambles the regular DNA. The mitochondrial DNA is, more housed within the mitochondria, which is the power plant of the cell, whereas the other stuff kind of free floats, as I understand it. Inga says, fishery. Are you familiar with the story of Mesmer, Magnet Guy? I see some parallel to Father Fish. His treatment was to let people heal on their own, letting the tank do its thing. Yeah. Actually, I watched a channel called Knowing Better, one of my favorite YouTube channels, and they just went over on that channel all the water cures and like kind of quack medicine that went on at the turn of the century. Some of it was actually stuff that today we like the heating pad, I think, was invented at one of those places. I mean, some of the stuff has like struck gold and is useful, but like 90% of it's just like really crazy, like the stuff, mesmerizing. But the idea of using magnets to like cure cancer or whatever, that's definitely not recommended. Go see your doctor. uh, Lar, you know what? Let's address this right now. So, Laramis01 says, you are partnering with a guy who posted a video from him at his church on his fish channel denouncing LGBTIA plus. Um, he may be a source of knowledge, but yo, dude. So I'm not partnering with him. There's no like monetary anything like that partnering. But I've already said, and I say in almost every interview with him or whatever, that we do not agree on our politics, our political, our social, our personal, our civil liberties, anything like that. We do not agree on any of that. He's a big time Trumper, and he was a big time Q fan and everything, or things like global warming that I cannot abide standing by personally. That being said, I have been incredibly shocked in this hobby, incredibly shocked. How many people believe that the Earth, for instance, is 6,000 years old or evolution doesn't exist, yet they have a basement with 140 tanks of guppies that they're breeding new strains of. They're literally tinkering with evolution before their own eyes, and they're saying they don't believe in evolution. So my thought is, if someone comes to him and looks up to him and they hear his, in my opinion, ignorant answers about LGBT issues and trans issues, which have nothing to do with fish keeping per se, or politics and his other issues. One, look at his record. The interesting thing is Father Fish used to be a freedom rider. When he was a young man, he went down and got hit with the fire hoses. He went down to Mississippi and Selma when he was in his early 20s as a minister and fought for desegregation. Dude's 85 years old. I think that the equal rights of the rest of what will we call it? Not I'm what's that? No, what's that? What would you call a community that's been like neglected? I'm trying to think of. Sorry, guys, I'm spacing on the word, but I think that for certain people, especially of a certain age, they don't see it as the same issue. And I think for our generation, I think even like baby boomers and newer, they see it differently. Oftentimes. Now that doesn't excuse it in my mind, but I also don't think I'm going to change his mind. And if we can agree on science about fish tanks, and we can agree about our love of science, and as a general rule, I mean, whether he knows it or not, he's got trans fans, he's got straight fans, he's got, every one of the LGBT plus, I mean, all of them. He's got somebody that I've spoken with that's also a viewer of mine that is into what he has to say about aquariums. And you know, yeah, I also disagree with those beliefs of his, but generally, for one, he's not sharing those, although he did, you're right, on that one video, maybe on another one. And yeah, so the other interesting thing is I have videos marginalized. Thank you, Durf son. Thank you. Yes, that was the word I was trying to think of, was marginalized. Yeah. So marginalized communities in general. There's been kind of a process where I think generations see like X, Y, and Z types of groups are marginalized, and they don't see maybe X.2 and X.3 and X.4, whatever. They think there's only 26 letters in the alphabet, and the other things outside of that view are just, one, they either weren't spoken about, they weren't in the paradigm of the time. But I don't want to go off on a tangent on that really any more than I already have. I just think it's not that I think that by any means I'm giving that attitude a pass. In fact, I would confront that attitude if we're talking like on a live stream, because I used to do live streams with him where I'd come and chat about a subject or whatnot. But I think that that's why I want to be in the community too as a voice, is so that there's another voice, and I'm not going to be as open about it because I don't think it's relevant. But my subscribers, for if you guys have been here for very long, well and good that my stance on all those things is extremely liberal in the classic American sense. Now, if you're European, I actually am a liberal in the European sense as well, not a neoclassical liberal, but I am a true liberal. I believe in, healthcare for all, one payer system through taxes or whatever. But that's a discussion for another time. But it is a discussion for my video that I do every year, which is international socio-economic, political, and industrial or environmental threats to the freshwater fish hobby. And that's everything from the fact that most people don't know that there's a war brewing in Ethiopia against Eritrea right now that could be very, very bloody, could be very bad. We'll see if it happens. But also, we've got Papua New Guinea, we've got Indonesia, we've got Myanmar, all with civil wars raging that we don't think about, but you can't go collecting there. You can't go to Lake Inle right now. And that impacts the fish hobby. So, yeah. But Ingus says, I respect your stance on it, and it's not like you hide behind your thoughts, like you speak them. Now, well, right. Yeah, Indonesia is changing its capital from where it's at right now with like whatever 4 million people to the island of Borneo. And in the highlands of Borneo, they're also developing all sorts of mines and things. Chinese companies are. And you can actually see Chinese footage of them bulldozing villages and things. Go to Google Maps and look through the footage that people have uploaded. That's where I got some of the footage in my samurai gourami video talking about the Valentiae gouramis and how they're from the mountainous regions of um, Borneo. There are Chinese tourists and there are Chinese mining company employees that are uploading videos of them on site in the middle of nowhere. But maybe their logging company has a cell phone uh, that's satellite, or like a satellite cell phone or satellite Wi-Fi or Starlink or whatever it is. Or maybe they wait till they get back, but they're uploading it and putting it on the map. And there were literal pictures of like villages that had been emptied, and now there's like new buildings and trailers with Chinese signs on them. And the government's inviting that in to develop the roads and things, just like it's happening all across Africa, where they invite them in to develop the roads, build stadiums. Some cases they're building schools and things too. But if you know China, they have no regard for, building codes and labor practices and things like that. Um, so there's also a big resistance of especially indigenous people saying, we don't want them here. We don't want strip mines. We don't care if they're going to build a road. We were happy the way we were living. And there has been a war both in East Timor, in Borneo, and in Papua New Guinea with native tribes right in the regions of where a lot of our nano fish and shrimp and rainbow fish are coming from. Where, for instance, I believe it was 2 years ago now, 6,000 indigenous people were done away with in a day by the Indonesian government. And then the same group, the same indigenous tribe in Borneo, kidnapped an Australian. This also happened in Papua New Guinea just recently. Just recently, actually, they were talking about the Australian that had been kidnapped, and they're threatening the guy, which is really unfortunate for this Australian guy. But it's serious news. I mean, you cannot go to those regions right now without big time security, and it does impact the hobby. It does impact where we get our fish, where they get their breeding stock at the farms in Southeast Asia, and things like tariffs and trade wars that happen behind the scenes, or they don't seem like a big deal, can sometimes have a huge influence. Like, for instance, the fact that China, the US, and the Asian trade, Ring of Fire, as they call it, trade alliance, the fact that Donald Trump changed what was going on with tariffs because China can produce things much cheaper than we can, and they don't have any, controls on how workers are treated, like none, pretty much. And therefore, American companies find it hard to compete with Chinese goods, right? Chinese manufacturing. So he wanted there to be tariffs on Chinese goods to increase people for buying American goods. Well, a side effect of that is if a trading bloc that includes Hong Kong or Macau or Singapore that are trading similar to China, or most of their container ships come out of Shenzhen or Guangzhou or Guangzhou, well, we're going to be paying 200 or 300% on those goods. And if those are fish coming from wholesalers in Malaysia or Indonesia, right there, you just doubled or tripled the wholesale price of fish. So it can have a big impact when those things go on. And that's why I do that little report. Plus, I think it's fascinating to see how the crazy things that humans do have an impact on the poor old fish just minding their business out in nature. So, well, we're coming up on an hour, guys. Any last questions or anything? Like I said, I will be on Father Fish's show tomorrow at 5 o'clock this time, if it's 6:30 p.m. where you are, it'll be 5 p.m. tomorrow that I'm doing it. If it is 9:30 p.m., well, I will be doing it at 8 tomorrow where you're at. Uh, Laramis01. So, Laramis, what are you talking about here? I really respect this guy's grift. Not really a grift. He believes in it. He believes a great response to my question, fish related. Um, I'm sorry. Are you talking about me, Father Fish, both of us? I'm just curious what you're trying to say here. I'm not quite understanding. How long until we get another fish room tour next week? Yeah, we can do a fish room tour soon. I kind of want to get my next. I've got 3 tanks down that are big tanks, and I want to get some geos. Um, so yeah. The other thing is, I was talking with Father Fish far before I had double the subscribers he did 6 months ago. So this isn't at all like oh, he's got a bunch of followers. Let me get in on that. This is just that I've been going back and forth with him for 6 years now. So, um, and he is now he is though influencing the opinions in the hobby. And I think that on my channel, I try to take the things that he says, and he does sometimes explain them scientifically quite a bit. And in his Discord, that happens. But on my channel, I would hope that you can get all that without any politics most of the time, but two, without, I'm a very live and let live for everyone kind of person. Um, oh, got it, Angus. Autocorrect is a curse, a gift and a curse. Hey, so my country is more peaceful than what it used to. I know the river pollution is putting some fish species at risk. How can I get fish imported with the purpose of improving their population? Where are you at, Carlos Francisco Mena? Are you in like Guatemala or something? Um, so Red Foreman, it's a funny name. Um, your killifish usually like to feed from the surface. They like movement, so they really do like live food, wingless fruit flies. They will usually eat like worms, bloodworms, blackworms, if they're falling in the water column. But generally, most killifish don't like to eat down at the bottom. Now, there are some that break that rule, but generally they do really like live food. And a lot of times killifish, especially if they're annuals, they're not going to live long enough to teach them much feeding of dry food. So it has to kind of be a labor of love oftentimes, unfortunately. Let's see here. uh which country are we talking about, or your rivers are polluted? Okay, so I know river here, let me put that on the screen. you know honestly, any mission to re-release wild fish into a habitat where they once were, if you're trying to bring them back, it really needs to be coordinated with like a university and local government, unfortunately. So really you need to start, with the ground up campaign, because if a fish has been gone for 100 years or 40 years or 10 years, there's different impacts. And even though it may be restoring something good in our minds, and it's the way it should be in history, maybe there's a bunch of invasive X, Y, and Z's and the ecosystem has changed and it can't support those fish, and you're just going to sentence them to not surviving. So anything like that, please don't release fish into the wild. Now, if you are interested in helping fish like Mexican fish and Central American goodeids, by all means, go to places like Dan's Fish, linked in my description. I've got a discount affiliate link. There's a grind. There's my I get my little commission off that. They sell $100 worth. I get what is it? $2 towards buying new fish stuff. But in any case, you can do that, or the axolotl. Just make sure it's the right species, the Mexican one. And they're really trying to have people keep them as a backup, especially though like the Ameca splendens and things like that. So look into that, and maybe El Salvador. Okay, I've seen there is a video short I did on the project to clean up some of the rivers in Central America of trash. And they brought a barge in and they removed, I mean, literally hundreds of tons of floating plastic and stuff. And there are some efforts to bring in these automated systems that then just need one guy on a backhoe or track hoe to lift up, these giant pallets of garbage that it kind of compresses into these cubes. I have not seen a stir-by with boils all over its body. That doesn't sound good, though. Fish eats well and is active, but it greedily bumps. Huh, that's weird. No, I haven't seen that. I've seen them with the gold dots, but that's about it. Craig says, I have 5 jobs again, and I'm lost in YouTube, and it's Alex's fault. Well, I'm about to no longer be your excuse for the night. Mama Duck says, for some reason my debit card won't verify on Dan's list, but there are tons of things I want to get from there. But ? Maybe try PayPal or something, or call him and ask. They're pretty cool about tech support there. I mean, all the guys who work there are very friendly and pretty helpful. Could you use oak leaves that have been cured as a type of fish food? No. Well, kind of. I mean, it might feed your microbiome and create biofilm and algae that then they could eat, but they're not going to actually eat the oak leaves. They're going to eat the microscopic and small organisms that live around it. Durf Son says, Lou is solid, is opinionated, and does research, but is your budget $10K a month? No, my budget is $2K a month. He's making far more money than me. He has a business. I don't sell anything. He sells plants. He sells dirt enrichment. I put up all my files online for $1.99 a month. I make between $2,000 and $2,500 a month. That's where I'm at right now. And I've showed my analytics not too long ago. I try to be pretty transparent about it because this channel is about education, building community, and also having fun and, supporting each other. But guys, I got to end it on that note. And much love to all of you. If you have more questions, or if I didn't answer it well enough, feel free to drop it in the comments and whatnot. And I guess I will see some of you tomorrow night. I think all the super chats and stuff will go to Father Fish on his channel. And the thing was, I didn't get to see who was giving super chats the way he and I shared our screen last time. It was supposed to split them amongst he and I, but it didn't work. So I don't know what happened, or if nobody gave them. But I did see Jeff, I believe it was, gave some memberships, and that was all I saw. So if more than that happened, it's really frustrating that YouTube hid all of it. YouTube sharing screen is not going to be used. We're going to use StreamYard because their own in-house system is terrible. But on that note, hopefully it should go a lot smoother than last time where he was fidgeting with technology for like the first 20 or 30 minutes to get things set up. We should hopefully click right in quickly. All right, guys, have a good night. Much love and take care. Hey, Coro, thank you so much. Begging for super chats on your channel, huh? No, not at all. I was about to get off of here, but thank you very much, buddy. Have a good one, guys. Take care. And yeah, thanks, Coro. That's very nice of you. Night, guys.